So one of the projects is making 52 TVET videos where we fly into places and give a history, geography, sociology, a general picture of how the whole area works. Like over here, our choice with Mopane Southeast is to fly directly into the Phalaborwa mine. It's huge copper mine, 2 kilometers wide, 450 meters deep. And that's one of the reasons why they've got such a good engineering campus. Over here, we're now flying into the Sekekune TVET College, which has got a massive and fascinating history of resistance and struggle going all the way back into the 19th century. So what you want to do is you want to try and get the story in such a way that you contrast that with the current terrible poverty over there as it became a homeland, with the huge mines existing all across the area. You're basically a part of the Bushveld igneous complex over here, so the mines are making millions. Over here, we're now flying into the Umgungundlovu TVET College. We take a definite African route. We go via Edendale. We're not going in through any of the more white liberal routes, straight into Edendale. Why? We want to make a connection with the TVET College at Edendale, with the Amakolwa, that black middle class tradition that was going on over there, so we can set up the story of how that works. And then when trying to understand the whole township situation we have in and around Durban, we make sure we get hold of the Kwadabeka hostels, the KK hostels, so we can understand how the whole migrant labor situation is working and how the TVET colleges in that area are working with that on the one side. If, on the other hand, we are working with Durban, well, we want to fly into the Durban harbour so we can get a sense of how the trade and logistics work. Why? Because the very first TVET college we're going to does logistics as it's a part of its course. So you can kind of talk about how Mbila works like that. You're always going through a continuous history of all the different areas. So for example, over here we got the Lubombo Mountains and we got the Makatini Flats, huge struggles with the white farmers and the black farmers over sugar and how agriculture works, so you get deep insight into it. At the same time as that, you want to take them past the border caves, because that's some of the most ancient humans to ever have existed on this planet, and they need to understand how they did work at that stage. So you're getting a picture of South Africa not coming from Cape Town upwards. The picture is coming from the north downwards with the great migrations. You also want to get a sense of how all the rivers work and how they're located and play with the TVET colleges. So over here, for example, we've got the great Tugela River. We're going down the falls and then off we go to the TVET colleges to try and understand how they work in that situation. We also need to make sure that we are continuously getting a handle on the tragedy of the homelands. So when we're doing Ehlanzeni, we're going through Nyamazama to get a sense of the extent of the poverty and the destruction caused by apartheid and what the TVET colleges are trying to do in these kinds of contexts. So the South Africa that you're seeing is a South Africa that is South African, which is huge. Then, for example, if we're working with all sorts of other techniques to get it, so if we are working with the Cape, we'll start off by telling the story of the attempt to get the first copper mines going at O'Keepe. This is the first mine in the history of South Africa, if we count it as whites. Blacks were mining here for centuries and centuries and centuries, so you can tell that story. What you then want to do after that's happened is you want to get them a sense of the terrain and where they are. So you want to take them through the deserts so they get a feeling for how the Northern Cape works. By, for example, going to the Black Mountain complex, you're not just going there to show them the mining, you're going there to talk about the fact that this mine has got a really useful agreement with Northern Cape Rural, where they're getting their students to actually work in engineering and hospitality. And then on top of that, you want to then go through, you want to show all the solar developments that are happening in this area, huge solar developments, so they get an understanding of all the different kinds of power industries, not just the coal power stations. You then want to take them over through the Orange River with its great irrigation schemes, so they get a sense of how the farming's happening, but you want to make sure they understand how all the white people took that land for themselves. And then you want to show them spectacular solar developments like this Key Solar 1, where they focus all the panels towards a heated spot in the middle, and that's what gets the generator going through water. So you're giving them a technical understanding of what's going on. Then you want to take them along to the great Katu mines, which are the iron mines on the one side. You want to talk about the railway lines going all the way through to Saldanha. You want to talk about how that's got an excellent TVET college because it's a part of the mine. Again, you always choose your routes. We're now going past Robben Island to set up the story of some of the Cape Town TVETs. So you get a huge contrast between, on the one side, what was happening to our black struggle leaders, and then on the other side, you immediately take it through to Camps Bay and the richest and most elite white areas in South Africa. So you can get a sense of those contrasts before you move into the TVET college and talk about it. You're continuously showing the geography. You want the social geography. You want to contrast, for example, on this side, you've got the Muizenberg campus, beautifully set in the mountains and by the sea. One of my favorite places, by the way. And what you want to do is you want to show how excellent that TVET college is, or that campus is, and then you want to pull away and you want to show the extent of the Cape Flats. You want to show them Mitchell's Plain. You want to show them Khayelitsha. You want to get a sense of the huge contrasts going in South Africa so we understand those dynamics and how they're working. The same time as that, you want to talk about all the huge engineering projects going on. And we're talking about the water projects, and we're also showing currently the source of the Orange River, how it flows down, so they can get a sense of how all our major rivers and irrigation schemes work. And that will then take us through to the first campus in this one, which will be the Stakspruit campus sitting over there for Ikhala. And you're going to have to tell the history of this area. It's a fascinating history, huge struggles going over here. And then on top of that, other things you can do as we do this story is, for example, you can take this is the Vembe story. So you take a line which takes you through the various mountains, and you decide to go right into the old capital, Zata, a proud capital with people like Mikado working there, great resistors to the Boers and the British. So people get a sense of pride in the areas that they're working with. And then as you're moving from area to area and you're trying to tell the social, political, economic histories, because bear in mind, I've sped this whole thing up for you. What happens is we fly over, for example, like sacred spaces, like the sacred lake Fundudzi over here, so that people get a real sense of what the things are that they know about and feel about, and here it is being shown for them. On top of that, you've got to set up contrasts between South Africa and how it works with neighboring countries like Botswana, so you get a sense of those kinds of contrasts. And then you have to go again into the complex homeland history. So at the moment we're flying into Mafeking, so we'll be looking at the whole story of Baputetswana, Magope, and how these struggles resulted in most of our TVETs, interestingly enough, often being in the homeland setup. You try and show the social space of the town always, so you get a sense of what the town looks like from a distance. And then you do things like you focus in on the architecture, so you show that old attempt by the Baputetswana people to get a traditional but modern architecture going, so people understand all the dynamics of how we work in South Africa. And that is the first 52 videos in a snapshot, each one around about 12 to 15 minutes long. So it's not sped up like that, it's done in a chilled way, and it gives you a size and shape and history and geography of South Africa.